Zoom. Hello YouTube, it's Arvid again, back with another video from the home studio. Today let's talk about home studio accessories for anyone who's making beats or producing music out of your home. Yeah.
Accurate beats.
Alright, so I'm working out of this spare bedroom in my apartment myself. But even if I only had one little desk space in like a corner of my living room or whatever, most of these things would come in really handy in that case too. I just want to show you guys a few of my favorite things in terms of home studio accessories. Now, this video isn't sponsored or paid by anyone, but some of the products I'm going to talk about has been sent to me in the past, even though most of the stuff included here I actually bought myself. So, yeah. So the first item on this list is just to get some proper angled stands for the different musical devices that you tend to use a lot. I find myself leaning halfway over both Maschine Plus and the MPC One for hours and hours just to be able to see the display properly. It hasn't really become an issue yet, but I'm starting to feel some back pain creeping up on me, and anything I can do to improve my ergonomics of working like that is a good thing. These are the different stands from a company called 3D Waves. They make stands for a lot of different pieces of gear. So this one is for my Maschine Plus, and I also have one for the MPC One. We're basically talking about 4 different pieces of 3D printed plastic and a piece of plywood, and you assemble it yourself, and it just holds the piece of gear at a nice angle and just improves the overall ergonomics of things. I think they look pretty cool. They're not too expensive and they're not super big or bulky, and they do the job really, really well. 3D Waves also makes this cute little thing that sits on your desk and basically just holds your different adapters at arm's reach. Kind of cool. There's also a company in Italy that makes like faceplates and stuff for the SP44 that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. The company is called CremaCaffé, and they also make stands for different synthesizers and samplers and whatnot. But they do it in a different way, so to speak. So this is one of the products. It's basically just 3 different pieces of wood that goes together like this and gets taken apart like that. So if you're looking for a portable solution to get your stuff at an angle, this might be an option too. And even though I don't have any affiliate or sponsored links to all of these things will be down below if you want to check them out for yourself. On to the next one, which is almost a piece of tech, but not super exciting, but really handy to have. This is my Midi man, but a lot of different companies make similar devices to this, and this is just a Midi interface, or like a Midi splitter. A USB-B port and 2 Midi outputs and 2 Midi inputs. That's pretty much what it is. This one just expands on the Midi connectivity that you have on the piece of gear that you're working on at the moment. So say that I'm working on the MPC One, for instance, and I want to be able to send Midi to something else. This one sits nicely in between the MPC One and the piece of gear that I want to send Midi to, or receive Midi from. Of course, this is not like brain surgery, but it's a nice and cool little thing to have in a home studio, and by getting one similar to this, you always know that you're able to hook up stuff in terms of Midi. Why not? And for number 3 on this list, kids, I think it's time to talk about protection and the importance of being safe from dust and dirt inside of your gear. I'm sorry about that. Decksavers are super strong plastic covers that goes on top of pretty much anything that you might have in your home studio. I have one of these for my OP1. I have one for my Jupiter XM, the Korg Wavestate, and I have one on top of my Technics 1210 turntable too, which is super useful because sometimes my daughter comes in here and she wants to play with the needle on the turntable, and that's not always a good thing. The Decksavers are designed to go on top of these things, so they have the right cutouts and everything for knobs or sliders or whatever your piece of gear happens to have. You know, it just sits really nicely on there, and it just makes sure that the piece of gear is protected from dust to get in the different crackles and whatnot. Especially if you have something in your home studio that you don't really use every single day, it's not a bad idea to buy one of these Decksavers and just slap it on there, and you'll be able to sleep better at night, I guess, not having to worry about dust getting into the stuff. And the 4th item here is something as dead simple as an audio recorder. I have the Zoom H1 myself. I've used this one for years, and it's been discontinued by now and replaced by a one called Zoom H1N, I think. This one only needs one single AA battery and a micro SD card in order to work. Then you just plug this one in between the different pieces of gear that you want to use and your headphones. Line in, headphone out, and then you're ready to record audio just like that. It also has microphones on it, so let's test them out real quick. Testing, 1 2 1 2. This is the built-in microphone on the Zoom H1 audio recorder. This is what that sounds like compared to the lav mic that I'm using for my camera setup. That's what that sounds like. So definitely good enough for doing some field recordings or whatever, but that's normally not how I use it either, because I use this one for my beat making videos whenever I make a video outside of here. If I make something on the balcony or inside of a park or something, the audio that you hear in the video is normally recorded on this one and then synced up in post. I just think it's a really good idea for anyone with a home studio setup to have a nice and simple way to record audio into some type of media. In this case, micro SD card. You know, you might not always want to patch things into your sampler or audio interface to be able to record audio. Something like this helps a lot, and especially for the price point, this is pretty cool. Number 5, let's get back to the topic of keeping your stuff safe, this time while traveling. Because if you need to leave your studio for some reason to go to a studio session or a live show or something, you might want to bring your sampler or synthesizer or whatever it might be. And that's where the analog cases comes into play. I use the compact cases for my MPC One, OP1, SP44 Mark II, and for the Maschine Plus, but they also make customizable hard cases for pretty much any setup if that's what you need. They all have this nice and clean look to them, and they just fit the stuff that they're made for perfectly. There's this soft felt or velvety type of material on the inside that helps keeping your gear nice and cozy, and the outside is this semi-rubber foam material thing. Basically just not too stiff or hard and not too soft either. We all want our different pieces of tech to hold up for a long time, so protecting them while traveling is not a bad idea at all. Most of these cases also has this nice pouch on the inside where you can store cables and stuff. So what more can I say? High quality cases for different types of gear. Comes in handy for anyone, just a good thing to have. The next one is mainly for people who already bought their own SP44 Mark IIs or are still waiting for them because of the different delays that are going on in the world. Let's again talk about CremaCaffé, the Italian company that makes skins for this one, as well as for the SP44A and the SP44SX. That's kind of the same thing. They come in a lot of different designs, and you're also able to make your own designs through their website and send in a file for them to print on one of these, and then you just put it on the SP44 and it looks different. It's just a matter of taking out 4 screws, putting this one on and screwing the screws back on, and you're good to go. The faceplates themselves aren't made of paper as it might look from this video, but instead some type of plastic material with this nice printing on them. Looks good, feels good. They also teamed up with Roland and made this nice padded pouch for the SP44. It just works for the SP44 together with the cable adapter if you want to throw it inside of a backpack or something. Pretty cool. Now the next thing I think is super useful for anyone with a home studio setup is to have a proper power bank, an external battery to be able to run your different pieces of gear even outside of your studio. I use my Omnicharge 20 Plus all the time for that, but there's also a bunch of different companies that makes similar devices to this one. But what sets this one apart to me compared to all the other stuff that I've had in the past is that this one comes with a full-size electric power outlet right there. Now I live in Sweden, so this is the European version, but it also comes with a normal US plug if that's where you live. I'm able to just plug in a normal power plug here, and I'm able to run anything that I've tried so far from this one. The MPC, Maschine Plus, different synthesizers and whatnot just works for hours and has a lot of juice inside of it. Honestly, I've even found myself using this one here inside of the studio sometimes when I can't really find a power source that doesn't disturb anything else in terms of audio that I'm trying to use at the same time. Maybe that's not how you're supposed to use it, but it works. Comes in handy more than you might expect. And as we're talking about powering pieces of gear, let me just mention this product real quick too. This is the Ripcord from a company called MyVolts. Sure, on this side it's just a normal old school USB-A connection, but the other side is actually a DC adapter that goes inside of my Maschine Plus or the MPC One. And this specific one is able to output 19 volts of power into this from a USB connection. So as long as your USB is able to output a lot of voltage, you can actually power your Maschine Plus from USB power like this. Something like the power adapter for an older iPad won't work, that just outputs 5 volts, I think. But again, my Omnicharge 20 Plus is able to output a lot of voltage on the USB connections, so I can just use this one and this, and then I'm ready to go. And of course, the Ripcords comes in a lot of different variations in terms of voltage and the size of this one. A pretty cool thing to be able to power a synthesizer or a Groovebox from USB power. I think that's cool. And I think that's it. Of course, you should have external SSD drives for all your sample libraries. You should have lights in different colors in your studio just to help with the vibe. You also need a proper routine when it comes to backing up your files to the cloud or something like that. But that's not things I want to go deeper into in this video. One thing that is really important though is to always have a nice cup of coffee in your studio, and I just happen to sell coffee cups with different designs on my merchandise store. The link is down below. Yeah, that's a shameless plug if I ever heard one. Making beats and producing music out of a home studio is super fun and nothing too complicated, whether it's a big room or just a small little space. I don't care. Hopefully you got something out of watching this video, and that is definitely it. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Until then, ha det gott!
Accurate beats.